All right. So if you're like, part of that big Pi network community, especially down in Africa, and you've been like hitting your head against the wall trying to get your phone number verified,
Oh, yeah.
or even if you're just, kind of curious about why this thing that should be so simple
Yeah.
is such a huge pain for some people, well,
You've come to the right place.
you've come to the right place exactly.
Yeah.
So we've been digging through like tons of resources really focused on the Pi Network Africa community to like really get to the bottom of why these phone verifications fail so often.
Mm-hmm.
And more importantly, we want to like give you those solid steps
Yeah.
and those like pro tips to like finally get that green check mark, right?
Absolutely. That's the goal.
So our mission in this deep dive
Mm-hmm.
is to like bust those myths
Mm-hmm.
and get you moving forward in your pride journey.
To pie. Yeah.
Okay, so like let's unpack this.
Okay.
When it comes to these phone verification hiccups, what are the usual suspects? Like what keeps popping up in all these articles and forums?
So one of the most common reasons, and this might sound super obvious, but it trips people up all the time,
Right.
is just messing up the phone number format.
Like a typo.
More than a typo. Think of it this way. The system that verifies your number, it's not calling your neighbor down the street. It's sending a signal across, like, continents. So it needs an address that works on a global scale.
Oh, I see. It needs to know exactly where to go.
Exactly. And for that, you absolutely got to use the full international format.
So we're talking like plus sign,
Plus sign, yes.
then your country code.
Country code, exactly. So,
Yeah.
for example, if you're in Nigeria,
Right.
that's plus 234, and then your actual number.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And you got to like strip out any spaces or dashes, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Our sources are very clear on that. It has to be one unbroken string of numbers after that country code.
Gotcha. Like a digital highway straight to your phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No detours, no roadblocks.
Okay, so that's one thing. But I was reading that sometimes it's not even you messing up. Like sometimes it's the phone companies themselves that are like blocking things.
Right, right. So it turns out some mobile networks, they've got these filters in place that can block international SMS codes. And a lot of these verification systems, they use codes from the US or the UK. So it's like they get flagged.
Like spam.
Yeah, like spam. It's kind of ironic because, they're trying to prevent scams.
Oh, right. Keep things secure.
Exactly. But in the process, they end up blocking legit stuff too.
Makes sense, actually. So it might not even be Pi Network itself, but your local provider playing digital bouncer.
Yep, that's a great way to put it. So the big takeaway here is,
Talk to your provider.
yes, call them up, whether it's MTN, Airtel, whoever you're with, and straight up ask if they're blocking international SMS. Could save you a lot of headache down the line.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so bad formatting, carrier blocks, those are two biggies. What else did our sources flag?
Well, we got to remember, no software is perfect. Sometimes it's just glitches.
Oh, yeah, of course.
The app itself could have a bug, or the Pi network servers could be having a slow day. These things usually get fixed pretty quick, but they can definitely mess with the verification while they're happening.
Right. So it's like not always your fault, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Technology isn't perfect.
Speaking of things that aren't perfect, I think we've all been guilty of this.
Uh-oh.
When something's not working, you just keep hitting that button like, maybe it'll magically work if I click it enough time.
Oh, yeah, the good old try again frenzy.
Exactly. And apparently that can actually make things worse with phone verification.
It can, yeah. Too many attempts too quickly, and the system basically thinks you're a robot or something trying to hack in, so it locks you out.
It's like, chill out, human.
Right? like take a breather. So yeah, if you've tried a few times and it's not working, step away for a bit, like at least 24 hours, sometimes even a few days. Patience is key.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta let the internet do its thing.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the why.
Yeah.
Now let's get into the how. Like, what can our listeners actually do to try and fix this?
All right, so first and foremost, before we even dive into the technical stuff,
Oh,
double check that phone number.
like, seriously, double check it.
Seriously. Does it start with the plus sign? Is the country code right? Are there any sneaky spaces or dashes hiding in there?
Yeah, because one wrong digit, and it's like sending a letter to the wrong address.
Exactly. And this system is way less forgiving than the Postal Service.
Right. So number one, get that format perfect.
Mm-hmm.
What's next?
Next, like we talked about, call your mobile carrier.
Yeah, the digital bouncers.
Yep. Be super specific. Ask if they're blocking any international SMS messages. You got to know what you're working with.
Okay, so we've checked our number. We've talked to our carrier.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about actually getting that code?
Okay, so this is where it gets interesting, especially for folks outside the US and Canada. There's often this manual verification route you can take.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more.
So in the Pi Network app, you go to your profile, then to account verification and look for the phone number section.
Okay, I'm following.
There should be something there that says, like, send a code to our phone verification service.
Okay, so like a backup plan.
Kind of, yeah. So when you hit that, the app will give you a specific number,
Okay,
and you have to send an SMS to that number. Key thing to remember here.
what's that?
This is an international SMS, so your carrier might charge you a bit for it.
Oh, right, good point. So double check your phone plan before you accidentally rack up charges.
Exactly. Better safe than sorry. And going back to what we said before, don't just keep spamming that send button. Try once, maybe twice.
Yep, be patient.
If it's not working, give it some time.
Got it. So format, carrier, manual verification, be patient. Anything else?
Oh yeah, this one's simple but important.
Hit me.
Make sure your Pi Network app is up to date.
Like the newest version.
Yep.
Older versions can have bugs or just not play nice with the verification system. So hop into your app store, see if there's an update waiting.
Okay, so that's good general advice for anyone using the app, but...
But we've got some even juicier tips specifically for our listeners in Africa.
All right, lay it on me. What's the insider info?
First up, and this is non-negotiable.
Dramatic. I like it.
Absolutely no VPNs when you're trying to verify.
VPNs, like those things that make it look like you're browsing from somewhere else.
Exactly. And this is where some people get tripped up because they think, oh, if I use a VPN to make it look like I'm in the US or Europe, maybe it'll work better.
But that's a no-go.
Huge no-go. Pi Network needs to know your real location and your real phone number. Using a VPN throws a wrench in the whole thing.
So if anyone's telling you to use a VPN for this, they're giving you bad intel.
Yeah, steer clear. It's all about security, right? They want to make sure people are who they say they are and that they're actually where they say they are. Right, makes sense. Okay, no VPNs. What else? What's the next Africa-specific gem?
This one trips up a lot of folks. The leading zero.
The leading zero. What's that?
So in a lot of African countries, when you're dialing a number locally, you put a 0 in front of the area code, right?
Oh, yeah, like 077 or something.
Exactly. But when you're putting your number into that international format, that leading 0 needs to go.
Oh, I see. So after the plus sign and the country code, no 0.
Exactly.
That's a super subtle detail that could easily mess things up.
It does. And our sources even have a workaround if you've already entered your number with the leading 0 and can't change it in the app.
Okay, what's the fix?
It's a bit of a hassle, but apparently it works. You basically have to register with a different number.
A number you know is formatted, right, without the 0.
Exactly. Go through the liveness check, get verified on that number, and then switch back to your preferred number and do another liveness check.
So it's like a temporary detour to get around that roadblock.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. But really, it just emphasizes how important it is to get that initial number format right the first time.
Yeah, for sure. Save yourself the headache. Now, I know we've been talking a lot about specific tips,
Yeah.
but our sources also mentioned that, like, certain regions in Africa seem to have more trouble with verification than others.
Yeah, that's right. They specifically mention Nigeria, Ghana, and Kenya as places where users tend to run into more roadblocks. It's not totally clear why, but they speculate it could be something about the local networks there.
Oh.
Or maybe just higher server load in those regions.
Makes sense. More users, more traffic, more potential for slowdowns.
Exactly.
So the key takeaway there is, like, be patient, especially if you're in one of those regions. Don't freak out if it doesn't work right away.
And definitely don't keep hammering that verify button. It's not going to help.
Yeah, just chill, wait it out, and hopefully it'll work itself out.
Exactly.
Speaking of getting help, there's one more thing our sources highlighted that I thought was super cool. They mentioned the Pi Network Africa community, like on X.
Oh, yeah, the old Twitter.
Right. And apparently it's like this amazing resource for connecting with other Pi users in Africa.
Yeah, it's a great place to swap tips, troubleshoot problems.
Like a support group, but for Pi.
Exactly. So if you're feeling stuck or frustrated, jump on there, ask some questions, see if anyone else has figured out a solution.
It's always good to know you're not alone in the digital struggle.
Absolutely. So to wrap up our deep dive into this whole phone verification maze.
A maze is a good way to put it.
We've gone over the most common reasons why things go wrong, from bad formatting
Right.
to those carrier blocks to app glitches to just being a little too impatient,
And we've given you a solid roadmap for how to troubleshoot those problems.
with some extra special tips just for our African Pi pioneers.
Right. So remember, absolutely no VPNs.
hmm
And always, always, always drop that leading zero from your phone number after the country code.
Seriously, that leading zero is a sneaky little troublemaker. And if you're in one of those regions where verification seems extra tough, just remember, patience is your friend.
And if you're really feeling lost, don't be afraid to reach out to that Pi Network Africa community on X. They might just have the answer you're looking for.
So, stepping back from the nitty-gritty details, this whole deep dive really highlights how even something as basic as verifying your phone number can get complicated
Yeah.
when you're dealing with a global platform like Pi Network.
Right.
It's a good reminder that the internet isn't always as seamless as we think it is.
It really makes you think about all the stuff happening behind the scenes, like with international networks and different phone companies having their own rules and all that.
Exactly. And that leads to a question for you, our listener.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
Why do you think some regions have a harder time with this stuff than others? Like, what are the factors that might be making it tougher to connect to these global platforms in certain parts of the world?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's like, what about the infrastructure or maybe even the regulations in certain countries might be creating those digital roadblocks?
Exactly. And how does this relate to other things you do online where your location and your personal info really matter?
Ooh, that's deep. Lots to ponder there.
Definitely some food for thought. But hopefully, with all this info, you're feeling more confident about tackling that phone verification and getting your Pi journey back on track.
Absolutely. So big thanks to everyone for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We'll catch you next time.